Welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar. My name is Sunandini and I am the host for tonight. During the past sessions, we received quite many questions regarding consulting, and it just seems that everybody wants to get into consulting, especially the big three. And because they have seen their alums rave about it, but most of us don't know much about consulting. So today we thought, why not bring one of us who has some real life experience working with the big three and can help you with all your doubts. We have with us Mr. Mihir Mehta, who is currently the COO at InsideIIM and has quite an enriching career in Ex-Piramal. But we are going to focus on his 4 years career journey at McKinsey and Company. And many of you have asked questions in the registration form circulated before, and we are going to take that up at the end of the webinar. So wait for it. And if you have any more questions, and if I skip some of the questions which were sent, please just write on the chat box and we'll take those up soon. So really glad having you here, Mihir.
Thank you. Thank you so much. As I was telling you, this is my first webinar. So I'm pretty excited about doing this. I hope that I'll be able to answer the questions which have been probably posted much earlier in this webinar. At the same time, happy to share all the experiences which I can. And that's the business I'm in, very frankly, which is imparting knowledge and ensuring that people learn out of the experiences. So hopefully, I am also looking forward to a great session going forward.
Sure. So before we understand consulting, the main thing is to understand your career journey. So we will start with your journey. Let's take the first question up. So consulting is considered to be the most aspiring career in MBA world. Almost everyone wants to get into big three, but most of us don't get the chance. And you are one of those people who actually took finance during their MBA from NMIMS and then worked in Kotak Bank for 5 years. And then you join McKinsey. So how does one make this switch?
So thanks for this question. First of all, I think you glamorized big three genuinely, especially after working in McKinsey. Okay, I really don't consider any consulting firm to be in big three or big four or big two or big one, right? So it's never the case. At least that's what my experience has been. Every consulting firm in India has its own niche, right? The reason I think McKinsey, Bain, BCG as consulting firms are recognized as MBBs of the world or big threes of the world, predominantly because of the sheer number of years they have been present across the globe and the kind of consulting assignments which they do, which doesn't mean that the other consulting firms in India or outside India do any less, I would say, important or less critical work than what MBB does, right? So I would say, yeah, working in McKinsey was a lifetime opportunity I had, and I'm like really grateful to it. But I don't directly kind of resonate with just big three. I think it's like big 15, big 20 consulting firms in India in my mind. And there are so many large transactions in India which happens in merger and acquisitions, right? Or there are leadership changes, right? Or there are due diligences which just happen, which do not just go to top three firms only. It goes to multiple others as well. So just want to kind of said it clear that yeah, McKinsey is a great firm, but like McKinsey, there are so many other firms, and I've been fortunate to be a part of one of the firms. Right now, to your other question, which is how did the journey really span out? I really did not plan it. Okay, I after MBA in finance, as you rightly said, I joined Kotak because I was pretty much interested in managing wealth or investments for individuals in India, right? And that's one, I would say, interest which lured me to actually join Kotak. Everything kind of went well in Kotak, and very frankly, like many viewers who probably would be watching this video, even I was not very much aware that what consulting is all about. Consulting as a word or consulting as a world always fascinates, right? Because it directly resonates with you giving advice to someone, and giving advice is always glamorous, right? Because it puts you in a position which is slightly higher than the other, right? And hence it attracts people. But I really did not know what consulting is all about. I just always thought that, okay, I want to just get into a consulting firm because they pay higher, because my lifestyle will be cooler, etc. But then all that just fizzled out. I think I encountered McKinsey as a firm while I was working in Kotak, because McKinsey did a project in Kotak, and fortunately, even though I was working in Kotak as a summer intern, I got an opportunity to work with McKinsey on that project. And that's where I got very close to understanding what a consultant really does. And luckily, what happened is that I resonated with the kind of work they do. I liked what they do. And hence, I always started aspiring that, okay, let me try to get into consulting whenever I can. So it was not a very planned decision, to answer your question. It just happened. Now, it happened due to luck factors or due to the sheer passion I had that, okay, I want to also think about how to crack a consulting interview, right? But these were the triggers. The reason I'm saying this is because it's important for everyone to know that first you have to decide, what are you really passionate about? Are you really passionate about becoming a consultant? Okay, that's question number one. And most of these answers will be yes, because it's a glamorous job, right? Or it's a perceptually glamorous job. But the second question you need to answer is that what kind of consultant you really want to become. Do you want to become a management consultant? Do you want to become a HR consultant? Do you want to become a tech consultant? Do you want to become a, a merger and acquisition consultant? And this you will only know when you will get to know more about what skills are required. Now, I was fortunate because I was working with a consultant directly, so I got to know. But most people don't end up knowing, and hence they do not have a focus on which kind of consultant they want to become.
Right.
So yeah, so that's how I want to share my experience. That for me, shifting to consulting was fortunate because I got an exposure to work with a consultant directly. But the best way to identify how to go about having a consulting career is get to know first yourself that what do you want to do. And that's something which I keep advising to all my entire team, or all the counseling sessions which I take with my students, that first it's important and you should give time to first understand that what excites you the most.
And what about the company side? Taking, for example, McKinsey is there. You are from a finance background, which is like 5 years there, and then you did an MBA also. So, how did they, like, why did they hire you?
Yeah. So let me break this into two parts. Number one is what I acquired and why I was confident to probably go into a McKinsey interview, right? Uh, I think I did very very basic job in Kotak because that was my first job, right? I had 3-4 years or 5 years of work ex in Kotak. For the first 2 years, actually, I was selling saving accounts and bank current accounts and credit cards and insurance policies to people by going to their houses and selling it, right? And then the remaining 3 years, they elated me to a branch manager, which there also I was actually doing the same thing, but probably handling a team. Uh, what made me realize again is that when I was working with a consultant before I got employed in McKinsey, is that they don't have this knowledge. And this realization itself made me kind of experience that fact that I am more knowledgeable than to them compared to them, right? So this, a lot of people feel that, hey, will my knowledge working in a retail store really work or help me to become a consultant? Obviously, the answer is yes. Will I, if I am doing a desk job, will I be considered for a consultant role? Obviously, the answer is yes. You have to be good at what you are doing, and if you are good at what you are doing, it will be your strength rather than a weakness, right? So that's the candidate's part of the answer. From the employer's perspective, I think any consulting firm, and since you're talking about McKinsey, let me share some light. In McKinsey, typically the traits which I feel the individual looked for, right? Number one is that, are you able to identify the right problems in a specific situation, right? And I want to stress on the point, which is the right problems. What do I mean by that? I'll give you an example. So let's say there is a bank branch in India, right? And if you look at the profit and loss of that bank branch compared to the competitors across, it seems like that they're not performing well, right? Now that's the problem statement, that you have to make the bank branch perform better, right? Now one consultant may look at it and say that, hey, let me do one thing, that let me increase the number of footfalls in that branch. If I just do that, okay, suddenly the business will increase, the footfalls will increase, my revenue will increase, etc., right? The other consultant may think and say that, let me not increase the number of footfalls, because those are enough compared to what the market says. Okay, let me try increasing selling one more product to every customer who I'm selling already one product. Right? Which effectively is a problem statement to solve for productivity rather than marketing, which is getting footfall. So, and there is no right answer. But how to identify the right problem is, I think, the 50% of a good consultant trait lies at, right? So that's one thing which they look in for interviews, and not only in interviews. Now interviews also is like, so I genuinely feel so that interview as a concept is also so abused, because in those 1.5, 2 hours you want to know that person entirely, but that's how it is, right? You even I today face a lot of challenges because of that, but that's the nature of it. The second trait which McKinsey typically looks at is that, are you nimble enough to accept that, okay, your approach or your solution is wrong, and are you able to correct it? Right? I think that's, and it's very less spoken trait. You'll not find it in books as well, or you'll not find people explicitly talking about it, because people feel that, how can you really make a mistake, right? But yes, the major trait which is required to become a successful consultant is that, are you ready to change your answer very quickly, and have you structured your answers in a way that, okay, you can shift to the next answer because it's all for the client, right? So these are the two big traits. Obviously, you need to be a great communicator, and by communicator, that does not mean that you have to be fluent in English, right? My English, or when I joined McKinsey, was not as fluent as it is today. But you should be able to communicate exactly what you're thinking, right? That is what I mean by being a good communicator. So these are the three traits. Now, again, let me give you one example about this, right? So I had one interview with a McKinsey partner when I was getting interviewed. It was scheduled to be a 30-minute interview. I went into a room and we just met and greeted each other. And then he just started talking, and he started kind of just trying to calculate that, what do I currently do? So for example, I was at that point of time handling an AUM of around 100 odd crores in terms of investment, right? So the way he started, he said that, hey, do you handle 100 crores of investment in Kotak, which means you would have around 30 clients. If you have 30 clients, which means there would be 120 family members. If there are 120 family members, it means that you would have sold probably 20 policies of insurance. If you would have sold 20 policies of insurance, you would have sold this much, this much. So like this, he just kept talking. So out of like 30 minutes of the interview, I think he spoke for 25 minutes. And I spoke for 5 minutes. But the only thing which I spoke about is, I just interrupted him and asked him the right questions. That, hey, I think this assumption is wrong. I don't think the average family size is 4. The average family size in this kind of a situation is generally 6. Okay. And hence all your calculations will vary. So why don't you correct that? These were like 4 or 5 interventions which I made, and that's about it. And then he told me to get out. Right. And then I thought that maybe it was not my day, because he was in a mood to talk and he was not in a mood to listen. But then I got selected. So I'm just sharing an experience that you have to be alert, and you have to be really good at what you are positioned as, right? So probably that's how I would like to answer that question. That and every experience, every colleague of mine has had a different experience, right? But it all boils down to one thing, that how prepared are you to crack that interview, right? And prepared does not mean your soft skills quotient should be 10 on 10, right? It should be that you should be thorough with what is it that you're passionate about and what is it that you know about, and then position yourself.
Right. So as you said, you were also not aware if you will get in or not. So I'm guessing you didn't know much about consulting during that time. Is it right? And good assumption.
Actually, I thought when I was taking the interview
Hmm.
that I know everything about banking. Okay, I'm like the stud, right? So these guys are just taking my interview, but once I become a consultant, if I join them, okay, I'll be like super performer because I know everything. And that hit me really hard, right? Because typically for becoming a good consultant, okay,
Hmm.
I think you'll have to unlearn also a lot of things once you get into that job.
Hmm.
And you have to learn some skills which you have never thought of as well, right? So how to make issue trees, right? How to create a ROA or a ROE tree for a company, how to calculate productivity across multiple time series of a particular workforce, right? All these things, when you work in a bank, you never hear of because you are like very much into the job which you're doing, right?
Hmm.
But as a consultant, you should always have an overall picture of the company, right? And depending on the size of the consulting firm, typically you end up consulting companies whose turnover is more than 10,000 crores, 15,000 crores at least, right? So
Hmm.
these are the kind of firms who hire McKinseys or Bains of the world, right? So the problem statement completely changes, and then so I had to do a lot of unlearning, by the way.
Hmm.
So it was a rude shock to me that hey, I thought I'll be like super performer here, but I think I took like 6-7 months.
Hmm.
Having said that, if I would have had some exposure of what issue tree is, and I'm taking issue tree as an example because in every assignment you will have to first make an issue tree, right? And as I told you, identifying the right problem is the first thing which a consultant has to do, right? So what a issue tree is, if I would have known that, my performance in the first 6 months would have been 50% higher than what it was actually. and
Hmm.
and that is where genuinely courses like consulting, even before becoming a consultant, helps an individual to get to know consulting world much better, is what I genuinely believe.
Got it. So the last question from your journey I want to ask is I want to know the exact moment when you joined McKinsey and you were like, yeah, I am the king. I know everything about consulting. But the moment you were given the first task, you're like, what is this? Did you have a moment like this?
Oh yeah, I I had it almost like 4 or 5 times in all my first 4 or 5 assignments. So typically, again, in firms like McKinsey, okay, average assignment is typically 3 to 4 months, okay, and then you shift to a new project, right?
Okay.
For
Hmm.
other firms, or for larger firms also like ENY, KPMG, Deloitte, and likes, typically the tenure is 6 to 8 months or so because of the nature of the consulting they do, right? Either ways, uh, so I'll give you the first example is that
Hmm.
I joined McKinsey and then the next day I was called saying that why don't you come to Hyderabad? We have a client and we are working on that and you join this team. I said cool. And this was by the way a banking client. Okay. So I said hey, and I just went into the flight, checked into a 5-star hotel. I was on the top of the world that I'll just barge into the client's room and say, I've worked in a bank, so just ask me any questions, right? And then the moment I enter the team room, okay, uh, they ask me to do something to so the exact uh, problem statement was that please optimize branch network of this client, right? And branch network effectively means that that client at that point of time in Hyderabad had more than 500 branches in India. Now
Okay.
the now what this really means is I said hey, what is this, right? And what it really means is that you will have to find out which branches or which new geographies in India you need to open new branches, which
Hmm.
branches are not performing well and hence has to be trimmed down, or I would say needs to be better productive, right? Which branches is where you have to increase the capacity because you have reached a limit beyond which employee productivity cannot go up, right? Which branches cost is higher than what it was anticipated, so what are the areas where the cost should come down, etc., etc., right?
Hmm.
So that one statement involved so many sub-statements which I never realized. And by the time I realized, it was already like 10 days later that this is what they really meant. So yeah, that was one moment of truth I remember. And then I felt that, dude, I just don't know anything about it. But that's fine. That's fine. I think also, see, always for the viewers to remember is that whenever you join a consulting firm, you have to have a mindset that it will be on the job training only. There are no formal inductions in any consulting firms, right? But that on the job training can be shortened as much if you are well prepared about the jargons, about what are the approaches people take to solve problems, right? You may not know the industry, that's okay. Being a financial consultant or let's say a financial services consultant, you may end up doing a cement project as well. But the basics of employee productivity remains still the same, right? So there are functional and there are verticals which are always different for consulting. So it's always better to be prepared before you actually join a consulting. And most people do not realize this till the time they become a consultant. And then they realize, hey, I should have skilled myself a bit more so that I can actually be the dude or the best performer in the team, right?
Got it. So now that we know a bit of your journey, let's shift towards more in-depth theories or maybe skill sets that are required for consulting. So what I want to ask, I have no idea about consultant, anything. So as a layman, I feel that maybe you get a problem. Maybe like sales are not increasing in some region since the past 2 years. And I want to understand the problem that, like, maybe as a company, I come and I ask you this: sales are not increasing in my company, and just what to do. Very vague question. So I feel what consultants do is they try to find data, and then they set their own hypothesis and then see what is the actual problem and give a solution or an advice to it. So is this something like, as a third party, as a layman, am I right with this approach, or is there something else that happens in consultancy work?
Yeah, I think what you just explained is definitely what a consultant does. But I think that's probably 30% of what a good consultant would do. Let's put it like this, right? See, a good consultant is always who can marry data and behavior and then come out with insights, right? Now, what do I mean by that? Now, data can be external and internal data, and behavior again can be external and internal driven as well. So when you say, and let's stick to that one statement which you made, which is that my sales are not improving. The first thing I would look at is that geographically or economically, is the trend in the similar direction across all the competition or no? Number one, right? Number two, do you have enough bandwidth, or I would say horsepower to actually sell more, and hence your sales can increase, right? Or are you at an optimum level of actually working? It's like a manufacturing unit, right? You may want to produce 1000 ton, but your machine can only produce 100 tons, so you can't do much. You have to buy more machines, right? But to identify that also is a trait itself. So one is you marry external environment and data, and to say that, okay, is this really a problem externally, right? And that is a very easy problem generally to solve. Most organizations have internal problems, right? That, okay, if my sales are not increasing, then is it that I am not incentivizing my sales team enough? Number one. Is it that my sales review mechanisms are not right? Is it that I do not have enough products to probably sell? Is it that I'm not training my internal people right? Right? Is it that my branches, in case if it's a bank, are recognizable or approachable, or my service is right or wrong, etc. Right? All that data can just give you one picture, whether the trend is moving up, down, where are the variations, etc. But why is that happening is only when you get to know, when you diagnose the problem by understanding the client. So now let me tell you the approach which any McKinsey or any consulting firm applies in such kind of a situation is, before any big consulting assignment, there is always a phase of diagnostic where people spend 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 6 weeks to visit multiple branches, multiple offices, meet hundreds and hundreds of employees, and try to find out that what do they really do, right? And just not about their job role, but how do they spend their time? There is a time in motion study. How do they do that? What are the improvement areas there? Are they marrying with the problem statements which the CEO has? And then they try to marry and come up with the solution. So this is what ideally a consultant does, and just not data and try to say that, hey, your trend is moving up, your profitability is going down, but your sales are moving up, which means you have to reduce sales and hence your profitability, profit margins will significantly improve. No, that's not what a consultant does. Yeah.
I'm learning a lot of things today. So before we get into the skills, trajectory, and the exit options of consulting, I would want to know, does one actually learn the practical application and the real world knowledge about consulting? Is MBA the only option to do this?
See, a lot of my students actually ask me this, right? So again, there are two aspects. Number one, why do consulting firms hire MBA students from XYZ colleges, right? And it's again a notion that people just hire from IIMs or IIMs of the world. That's not true, by the way. But nonetheless, see, they want to reduce the effort of, or they want to increase the probability of someone staying with them much longer, because they have had a historical trend that people from IIMs end up staying much longer. And human capital is the only capital which is the most precious capital of any consulting firm. And it has been proven, and hence they keep going to those colleges again and again, right? But you ask anyone in the consulting firm, are they open to looking at people, right, who are, I would say, passionate about solving a problem? No one will say no. Right? Everyone will say, yes, boss. I need people who are passionate about solving problems. So it's just a notion because people feel that, hey, there is a report which came out that McKinsey offered X rupees, X lakhs in IIM Ahmedabad or IIM Bangalore or wherever, right? But that does not mean that McKinsey do not look for people outside of these institutes as well. I have not done my MBA from IIM, right? I've done it from NMIMS. I worked in Kotak. Lateral placements in a consulting firm are typically not more than, it's a very minuscule number, by the way, but I still got through. How did I get through? Even after selling credit cards, saving account, current accounts, right? So remember, it's just a myth and nothing else.
Got it. So my question is, why are consultants paid so much? So from what I get is, consultants give advice, but they are not actually making or creating, or a direct impact is not created, but still they are paid so much. Is there a reason to that?
See, I think consultants are paid above average than the overall industry. Okay, it's not that consultants are paid very, very highly. Okay, again, I think that's a myth, right? I don't think consulting is a job which pays you really, really high. The reason why they're paid higher than the average is because of the sheer amount of time which they put into the job, right? I think an average working hour for a consultant would be way, way higher than a guy who's working in an industry, right? And you need to be compensated not only monetarily but also through lifestyle and through additional perks, so that you feel belonged. I think that this is the problem which consulting firms solve, and hence, and it is always thought that, okay, consulting firms pay higher, but the amount of time which they require also from a candidate is much higher, right? Because you're always on your toes, probably average 13 to 14 hours a day you need to work, but people are passionate about it, especially when you are young, right? You want to do that, and consulting firm gives you that opportunity and hence pays you higher as well. So that's how I want to put it. I don't think, I think 6 to 8 years in your career, right? If you are doing well, or if you are consistently doing well, everything will normalize. Your designation, your pay, right? Your position in the company, your importance in the industry, everything. But then you'll have to stick to it. And to stick to it, you'll have to love what you're doing. And to love what you're doing, you need to know what you want to do.
Right. Got it. So obviously, from what I understand, consulting is very broad and basically it is problem solving. So when it comes to real life issues, they are very industry driven. Do you think a person who comes from a specific domain, like let's say banking and wealth management in your case, makes a better consultant in a specific domain, or is it better to go for consulting in a generalist way?
Yeah. So see, typically anyone who joins a consulting firm is always a generalist in the beginning. Okay, no one is a expert. They eventually become an expert, right? And they become an expert by consulting similar clients like one, uh, and and then they create that expertise, and then they have answers on their tips, right? So first of all consultants initially are generalist only. Now we need to understand that why people give, or top management of companies give so much importance to a consultant. First of all, it is not the person whom they are giving the importance, very frankly. It's the network which they bring along with them. So in McKinsey, along with a team of project team, right, you have a McKinsey Knowledge Center, you have experts in India and outside India, or just a phone call away if you want to actually call them and understand that, okay, how do you go about solving a problem, right? You have partners, directors who have more than 20-25 years of work ex, who are also the owner of the project and responsible of delivering the project, right? So everything comes together with a consulting assignment. It's just not that consultant or that Mihir Mehta as a person whom that client actually hires, right? This is what no industry professional will be able to provide, right? And hence, it's always perceived that, okay, Mihir Mehta is getting so much importance, but actually it's the role of Mihir Mehta, if he's playing well, is getting the importance. So it's always like that. So yeah, as in that's so. By the way, okay, let me share. This is that I've been a consultant and then I've been into industry also, right? Where I worked in Piramal and seen the other side of the world as well. When you're a client and you have actually hired a consultant, right? And both the sides feel that grass is greener on the other side, right? It's always like that. That a consultant always thinks, hey, this guy's job is so cool. He has to do one thing and he has to do well, right? And then his life is set, right? And then his trajectory is absolutely clear. And the other guy feels that, hey, the CEO is talking more to him than me. What have I done wrong? But it's okay. I think if you are content in what you're doing, I think all these questions just are taken care itself over a period of time.
Got it. And before I ask the last question from my side regarding trajectory and exit options, I just want to tell all the people who are watching this right now, I have got many questions regarding MBA. Is MBA necessary for consulting? And all these questions come up. And we in InsideIIM also created a consultant program where if you want to learn frameworks, concepts, and case studies from consulting experts like BCG, PwC, Deloitte, etc., then you can check out a consulting program, which is a 2-month long program. And our past sessions have been rated really great. That is 4.56. And just click on the link in description and you can know more about that. So no, MBA is not the only option. As Mihir said, you need to understand what the jargons are, what consultants do, how they do it, and what is the approach to it. So you can just have a look and maybe see if it is helpful with you or to you in any form. So coming back to the last question. So Mihir, can you tell us what is the career trajectory of consultants and what is the exit opportunity?
Sure. So see, in any consulting firm, typically the trajectory is that you join typically at a associate level, okay? Or some consulting firms call it as analyst, or some consulting firms call it as associate. Typically, the hierarchy is that you become an analyst, then a senior analyst, then an associate, then a senior associate, then an engagement manager, then an associate partner, then a partner, and then a senior partner, right? While it looks a lot,
Yeah.
A person can become a partner in 10 years itself.
Okay.
Right? So and typically, just to kind of position it in the minds of everyone, a partner in a consulting firm is equivalent to so a partner in a consulting firm always advises CEOs in India, right? So the kind of meetings he always does is with a CEO like Mukesh Ambani, like Ajay Piramal, like, so a partner always does meetings with them, right? So a person, 10 years of experience, advising a person probably who's built 10,000, 15,000, 50,000 crore of business is that's the glamorous job in my mind, right? That you get that exposure.
Got it.
So
And
that's the
yeah. Sorry, sir. Please continue.
Yeah, and see, as far as exit opportunities are concerned, I think typically in a consulting firm there are events which happen at a specific life cycle, right? So typically what I've seen is that at 3.5 years, or at the end of 7 or 8 years, or at the end of 15 years is where people typically switch. Now that can't be like a general rule as such, okay? But that's the time when people are about to get elevated to a next role, or they say that no, I don't want to get elevated to the next role. Let me take up something different, and they move to the industry. So typically that's the exit tenure which people have is what I have seen. Maybe I'm like answer may completely differ to some other consulting firms. I'm talking based on my experience. From an opportunity perspective, I think it's pretty clear that today in India, there are almost every company you go to. And if you say, or if you ask the CEO that, hey, are you looking for a person with the right mind frame, ready to put everything what he has, and is really great at solving problems? Do you really want that? But he probably does not have exact as much domain knowledge as you have. Okay. I think 8 out of 10 people will just say yes. Because learning domain knowledge is a very smaller problem today. Learning the frameworks, learning what you just said, right? As in the consulting skills, right, is a larger problem. You have to deal with people, you have to deal with processes, and you have to deal with, I would say, the commercial acumen as well, and get to the answer.
Got it. So I'm done with my questions. And during the registration, many of you guys have asked questions. I've taken up several of them. Maybe I might have skipped some of them. So please, I'm sorry for that, but you can ask the questions on the live chat. So I'm going to start those questions. Mihir, you're ready, right, for the questions? Okay.
Yeah, I hope so.
So starting with Rishit. So he is asking how to research the basics about every industry, such as cost drive, future potential, and other information that can aid in terms of interview preparation and on the job.
It's a great question, and I don't think there is a framework to answer this question. So I'll answer the way I would have looked at it if I had this question is that, so let's say if you want to research about any industry or any company as such, okay, the first thing you should do is read their annual report. And second is you should read the analyst reports, which keeps getting published. If you are thorough with this, and if you continuously read this for like a month or so, because every analyst reports come out every month or every 2 months, etc. And if you probably would have read like 20 reports and probably read the annual report, I'm telling you would know much more about the company than 80% of the company, employees of the company, right? So it's this is a very this is a trade secret, by the way, right? A lot of people don't know it, and hence never able to find out that answer. But this is what I used to do as a consultant. That before meeting a client, I used to read a lot of analyst reports, so I know much more about the client, and hence I'm able to kind of position. And this can actually work for your interviews as well, right? So yeah, that's my answer to your question.
Great. So the second question is by Harish. How jobs at McKinsey got affected due to COVID or recession? Any idea about that?
Yeah, I think as per as my knowledge, I think the number of consulting assignments actually increased. because a lot of top management had a lot of time to sit and reflect back on what needs to change after COVID, because business was not moving too much, right? And hence people utilize the time by probably engaging with a consultant. So that way the consulting industry, I would say, really boomed in the time of COVID. But there were travel restrictions as well, right? So the touch which a partner would bring by meeting someone in person did not happen. uh, yeah, so these are the pros and cons, but I don't think the consulting industry got affected too much. Obviously, from a rupee value perspective, if you're not doing business, your spends will decrease. If your spends will decrease, obviously you will have lesser proportion of money to spend to a consultant, if you are doing a cost optimization. But then a consulting firm also then recovers later. So I don't think from a number of assignments perspective, I don't think it got affected in any way.
Got it. So Adnan is asking, how did you target companies and grow in your career?
So whenever I've shifted in my career, I've never had like a detailed plan. Let me tell you that, right? And that is something which has worked for me. Uh, it's a moment in your career when you feel that, okay, let me now move on to a new challenge. Okay. And then from there, you in your mind, you just switch that, okay, let me now start finding a newer opportunity. And then till the time you find you keep kind of up to it, right? I don't think I had planned in McKinsey that, okay, I will join McKinsey and then after 3 years and 8 months, 9 months, I will leave McKinsey, right? Because typically this is when people leave. When I joined McKinsey, I always thought I'll probably work in McKinsey over 15 years, right? And become the partner. I always had that thought process. But then it it will evolve, right? It will evolve. So I don't think anyone should feel the pressure that, hey, 15 years down the line, I want to become a CEO. So how should I plan right now? Because no one will ever know. And if you are planning this, then probably you're planning the wrong thing in your life. You should plan what is it that will hone your skills right now. Anyone who's below 32 years of age, okay, should just think about this. Because after this age, suddenly your life cycle will change, you'll have different kind of responsibilities, your risk appetite will change, etc. But you have to just think that how am I honing my skills and becoming either a better consultant, I'm reading enough, etc., etc. Right? So I would, if I reflect back, I would invest my time like this.
Got it. So Shreyang is asking, how does one successfully transition from EY to Big Three firm?
Yeah, so I think so working in EY would give you a certain expertise which Big Three firm do not typically require, right? So that's a bit of a difficult thing to do from EY to Big Three. I think in my answer in your situation would be that you should just unlearn everything what you did in EY and not be too technical about all the consulting assignments which you have done. If you are a consultant, you may be in other departments as well, right? Get onto thinking about strategy consulting as a topic, or sales and marketing consulting as a topic, right? Which is all about business transformations, etc. And study about that, and then probably EY knowledge will add into your interview if they ask. But right now, you should unlearn everything and probably start afresh, is what I feel. And keep that EY knowledge in your back pocket.
Got it. So the next question is by Mohammed Amir. He's saying, I have experience in market research, business development, and sales operations. Are there people with this background in consulting?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. As in, all three areas is where the largest assignments in consulting firm come from, right? Operations and by marketing. See, marketing again is a small, typically in firms like McKinsey, Bain, BCG, NY, KPMG, Deloitte, and strategy, etc., etc. I think it's related to business when a consulting assignment come up, and marketing is a sub part of it. So sales, marketing, sales strategy, sales operations, all is a part of it. So the answer is absolutely yes. I think this will obviously help.
Got it. So the next question is by Sarthak. How to solve cases and what are the approaches for guesstimates?
Yeah, I think maybe when you join the course, you'll realize that what kind of cases can come. Okay, and then how do you actually go about solving that? Because the answer really lies in what case you have got. I can't hypothesize a case and give you a generic solution to it, right? I think in this program, probably you will get to solve many case studies with the people who has already solved in their lives, right? So you'll get to know much more. So uh, the example which I stated is a real life case study, right? That branch network optimization was the problem statement, and this is a case study, right? And there will be data around it that okay, they have 500 branches, 300 branches are in tier 2 cities, 100 in tier 1 cities, 50 branches are more than 25 years old, etc., etc. So there will be a lot of data which will be given. Now, how to understand the data, put it in different buckets, compartments, and then try to find an answer is something which probably the course will help you with, is what I can surely tell you.
Got it. So I'm sorry, just interrupting one thing. So on the live chat, there are many questions. I'll be taking it up after 2-3 questions that are left for the registration questions that were given before. So I'm sorry, just hang in there. I'll come back to you. So yes, coming back, we have a question by Remy who is asking, what is McKinsey culture? Is that the same in all the offices worldwide? If you have any idea about this.
No, I absolutely have idea about it because I've lived that culture, right? And by the way, it's a very philosophical question, but still, what is culture, right? As in, culture is just not words which companies put on their annual reports, right? It is how you behave, how you feel, how you act in the office, outside the office, right? So in my mind, my answer to the question, what is McKinsey culture in my mind, I think the first thing which comes in my mind is approachability, right? You can approach anyone from any nook and corner of the world, right? By just pinging them and calling them, and they'll just set up a time with you, right? So that's number one. The number two is clearly the meritocracy. That only if you perform is when you grow. Uh, doesn't matter how good your English or how bad your English is. It doesn't matter. Uh, uh, as in, how are you? What is your approach to solve the problem? If you have solved the problem right for and made billions or millions of dollars for the client, okay. How are your ethics, right? And how do you treat your team members, or how do you work with your and this across multiple or all offices in McKinsey is exactly the same. So that's my answer, that McKinsey culture, and that is why it is a great institution, because the culture has remained intact irrespective of you being a office in Indonesia or in India or in US, anywhere. I think it will remain the same.
Got it. So the next question is by Suprat. He's asking, will AI or data scientists replace management consultants in the future? If yes, then what's the way forward?
Yeah, I think I kind of covered in my earlier statement, but let me cover that again. Is that, see, consultant job is not about data. Then you require data scientists, and data scientists are not management consultants. Okay, so marrying behavior with data is what a consultant's job is, and that will never be replaced. You may get better insights out of data, but what do you do with the data is what the consultant's job is. So yeah, so I don't think that is any potential risk to a consultant in any case.
Got it. So the last question, and then we'll take up the live chat, is from Sangram, who is asking, what challenges do you see in the ESG, that is environmental social governance consulting business?
Great question, actually. Great that I've got a question on ESG, right? I think the only word I have for ESG consulting is opportunity. I think there is great opportunity for ESG consulting to just grow from here, right? I think companies a lot of companies are yet to realize what power ESG has. And anyone who's have had some knowledge about ESG and how to consult clients will have a great trajectory going forward, is what I feel. So I don't see any challenges as such. Yes, you may. The only challenge I see is that you may not have enough case studies to prove your point that okay, this is the answer which will work for you, because there aren't any, right? But I don't see that as a challenge. I see that as an opportunity, because then you get to try a lot more things.
Great answer. And I hope we did some justice to all the questions that were asked. And we will move on to the live chat now. So, yes, coming to the first question, Anvesha is asking, did you start from the start with your switch? Does switching domain mean starting again in your career, or the previous experience is retained and valued?
So depends. Again, for me, it never remained, as in it never continued. I always had to start from scratch. Right? So moving from Kotak to McKinsey was a completely different ball game. And I had to start from scratch. Again, moving from McKinsey back to Piramal, I had to again start from scratch. So, but it's not the case for everyone. If I would have moved to some other bank from Kotak, I think I would have carried the experience of Kotak and probably use that differently to probably grow in my career. But I think that's more about a personal choice. I like going back to zero and then probably coming up. That's how I like it. But yeah, it depends on the choice which you make at that point of time.
Got it. So Shivani is asking, for someone like you with a niche experience, how does one transition to a more generalist consulting profile?
Sorry, can you repeat the question? I did not.
So Shivani is asking that from someone like you who has a very niche experience in finance, as we said, how does a person like that transition from a niche to a more generalist role, like in consultancy?
Just be open to unlearning. Okay, just be open to the fact that you don't know enough. Okay, and just absorb the environment and the learnings around you. I think you will be a great generalist. I think if you are smart enough, you will play this very smart, right? That don't go in the direction of thinking that okay, I know everything about a particular niche, right? Be open about everything which comes in your way and try to learn those skills. And eventually, after 2 years, 3 years, you will realize that you know two things now, right? And that's what a lot of consultants, by the way, do as well. By the way, they ensure that they learn in the initial 3-4 years without leveraging too much knowledge which they have in the past, and suddenly you see them as an expert in just 4 years time.
Right. So Tanya is asking, what do you think about computer engineers going into analyst roles in consulting companies like BCG and Bain? What career options would one have?
Yeah, as in, if you're passionate about becoming a consultant, forget computer engineer, forget analyst. Okay, think that whether you are passionate about becoming a consultant. If the answer is yes, all these things should not matter, and it will not matter, right? Whether you join as an analyst or you join as an associate, how does it really matter, right? Rather, I would always say that if you are starting, you should always start as an analyst. Don't even aspire to directly become an engagement manager. It will put undue pressure on you. Why do you really want to do that, right? Give yourself time to learn and then take the rope upwards. Don't be in a hurry. And also, before that also, please understand the power of selecting the right career, right? You want to become a consultant is not a enough and a specific statement. What kind of consultant you want to become, right? What is your interest area, right? All this you have to answer yourself first. And I hope whosoever joins our course or not, we will make them have this answer for sure at the end of the program, that this is what you should pursue, because now you know everything and this is what you like, and we will help you to make it happen for you.
Got it. So Deep is asking, should we target only IIMs for MBA or top 20 B school colleges is also good for consulting?
For consulting or for becoming an MBA?
I don't know. He has just written, should we target only IIMs
Yeah, so
for
if you want to become an MBA, then target IIMs. If you want to become a consultant, then why are you want to take that route? As in, why do you want to spend 2 years? If you are clear that you just want to become a consultant, might as well start getting skills of becoming a consultant and start probably exploring opportunities of becoming a consultant. If you're not sure, then it's fine. Then you probably go the path of doing an MBA and probably take 2 years to decide. That's also okay. But if you're clear that you want to become a consultant, then why do you want to spend those 2 years trying to learn multiple other subjects and then finally become a consultant? Might as well spend those 2 years in honing your skills in becoming a consultant, in probably doing like 5-6 different skill programs, and you'll be much better off becoming a consultant after 2 years.
Deepa, I think you asked the same question, is MBA mandatory for consulting job? I think the answer is already given. So I'm going to move on to the next question. Rohit is asking, any advice for a fresher consultant in analytics domain?
Yeah, I think, typically today data analytics or data science roles, okay, the way they are evolving is that you end up becoming a data analytics consultant once you probably spend 2-3 years as a data analyst or a data scientist. Okay? Because then you eventually become a manager in 2-3-4 years time, and then you start kind of I would say interacting with the business leaders within the organization and start solving problems like a consultant. So that's my answer, that I think data analytics is a great skill to have if you want to actually take that path to become a consultant. But a data analytics guy expert can become a good consultant vertically in the same organization, is what my opinion is.
Got it. I think Narayan asked the same question, that is the data analytics a good role in consultancy? So I think you got the answer. So I'm going to move on to the next question. Swagata is asking, part of the consulting recruitment requires you to go through some case studies. How do you suggest us to approach and handle the case studies and fare well there?
Yeah, so see, to solve any case study, you need to learn a framework, right? And that framework can differ based on the nature of the case study, right? Whether you want to use a framework which is about, as I said, that do you want to first get into understanding the metrics, unit metrics of an organization, or you want to understand competition for the organization, or you want to understand the external environment for the organization, right? So every problem will have a different framework attached, which will then should be applied to solve a particular case study. There can be 100 different types of case study, and only when you do more and more case studies and when you will realize that which framework to apply when. I genuinely cannot give an answer because I don't know which case study you're talking about, right? So
got it. Virendra is asking how to find analyst reports for companies.
yeah, just go on Google, type analyst report XYZ Limited bracket PDF and just press enter, and a bit of a search, and you will get a lot of PDFs which will have analyst reports already. So by the way, just to give more color to the answer, who are these analysts? These analysts are stock market experts whose day job is to keep researching about their target companies, okay, and try to give their investors a perspective that whether this is a good or a bad bet at this juncture, right? So they are already doing a job, then why spend time on doing that again, right? Because it's a very important job in the industry today, so you should probably leverage that, is what I feel.
Got it. So our next question is, Priyesh is asking, in the initial hiring stages, what does the consulting firms look for in a candidate's resume?
Yeah, I think they look for obviously your experience, if you have any, Okay. If you don't have any, then it's a different ball game. I'll come to that. But if you have any experience, it does not matter what role have you played. It matters what have you done in that role. So articulating your experience well on your CV is also extremely important. Number one. Number two, the second thing which they look at is that, are you nimble enough in accepting the fact that you don't know everything? Okay. And you are aware that there are few frameworks available which can be used to easily solve a problem. So in a way, they will understand your intent and your technical knowledge. And technical knowledge does not mean that they will ask you that, hey, what is the cost of funds for a bank in India? I don't think that's what I mean by technical knowledge. What I mean by technical knowledge is that, do you know what a product team in a bank really do? Right? That's technical knowledge in consulting world. Right? Do you know what metrics a bank branch has to perform on? Right? Whether it is balances, whether it is cost of funds, whether it is let's say amount of cash deposited and withdrawn in a bank branch every day, etc. So that's the knowledge which they expect you to have.
Got it. So our next question is from Preeti, who is asking, McKinsey career options involve different teams like POPS team, implementation, design, etc. Where does a strategy consultant lie in this matrix?
Sorry, you'll have to repeat the question again.
Sure. McKinsey career options involve different teams like POPS team, implementation, design, etc. Where does a strategy consultant lie in this matrix?
Yeah, I think it lies. See, strategy consultant is not a job role in McKinsey at all, right? It's the nature of the firm. Okay, so let's put it like this. So any role here will be advising the client as a consultant only, right? So you will not see anyone who's a McKinsey consultant writing in their profile, I am a strategy consultant, or I am a implementation consultant, or I am a POP team member. No, everyone is a consultant who's facing the client. So everyone will get a problem which is related to strategy only, because that's the nature of McKinsey as a firm, is strategy consulting. I hope that answers the question, right? So if you are at the verge of getting either of these roles, right, I think you should consider yourself as a McKinsey consultant only. And McKinsey firm is a strategy consulting firm. As simple as that.
Got it. So our next question, first of all, I don't know the pronunciation of this name, so I'm going to call it Knack, is asking, could you please say a word about data scientists in consulting? For example, quantum black for McKinsey, for example. Yeah, this. Did you understand? Like, should I repeat this question?
I heard the question, but I didn't understand it. So maybe the person who wrote it can rewrite it again.
Yeah, please.
Probably
Yes, not able to understand it nicely. So the next question is Pratik, who is saying, opinions on Salesforce CRM company and the future of Salesforce technology.
Yeah, I think that technology is here to stay, right? That's a completely different area again. We're slightly digressing from consulting word, but that's fine, right? I think Salesforce as a company is a great company. I think it has done wonders in the last 4 to 5 years itself. They are definitely here to stay, because I myself know a lot of companies in India who have already adopted their implementation suite, right? The CRM suite, or the marketing suite, or the customer service, or the customer success suite, etc. So I think in that regard, it's a strong company, and it's a great company to work with.
Got it. So Rahul, your question about analyst report has been answered, and how to find this also, I think he spoke about this. So I'm going to skip this one. Akram is asking, how is the AltUni course different from the others, like the one from Growth School? Any major difference?
Okay, I'll take that on behalf of my team. See, first of all, conceptually, we believe that you getting exposed to every aspect of different kinds of consulting is absolutely mandatory for you to decide what is the career path you want to pursue, right? So the way we have designed the program, we have ensured that almost all the aspects of 5 different types of consulting in India are completely taken care. Okay, whether it is about strategy, which we now call it as sales and marketing, because it always boils down to that. The second big area is tech consulting, third is HR consulting, fourth is corporate finance, and fifth is nothing but data analytics / data science, right? So these are the 5 big areas where we see a lot of traction in the next 5 to 10 years in India. And hence we want to ensure that every aspect of this consulting is taught in depth. I think the second big area while we were designing the courses, we wanted to ensure that people get enough and more assignments to work on, or case studies to work on. It should go to a point when people feel tired that bus ho gaya abhi, right? So I think that is something which you are really passionate about, that the more you do, the more this program will give. Okay. So that's second big area, I would say, in my mind at least. And the third big area is the one-on-one coaching and mentoring which we provide, where people will spend time with each one of the candidate to guide them and mentor them on how they should pursue their career as a consultant and what kind of a consultant they should be and how should they really go about it, right? And while all this happens, we ensure that we create enough networking and I would say platform opportunities for everyone to probably grab and then take a path which is best suited for them.
Got it. So the next question is by Adarsh, who is asking the difference between Big Four and MBB.
There is no difference. Please get away from this notion of Big Four, MBB. All 7 firms are great consulting firms. Okay. I think the answer lies with you, that which is the best for you. And the answer is, it's okay if the answer is not McKinsey, very frankly, right? If the answer is not BCG, it is completely okay, right? If you want to become a great M&A expert, maybe the answer is not the top 3 perceptionally, right? So there is no difference. Let's put it like this very clearly. That I've worked with, as a client, I've worked with many of these 7 firms. As a consultant, I've worked with McKinsey. I'm telling you very clearly, there's no difference. I think you should get this notion out of your head. Every organization is large enough to have presence across the globe in more than 100, 150 offices, earning billions and billions of dollars. It's no small thing.
Got it. So the next question is by Adarsh, who is asking, would you rather than join consulting firm right after MBA as an associate, or join it as a director or a senior level role in consulting after 5 to 6 years of experience?
I will join consulting once I'm clear that, hey, I'm passionate about becoming a consultant. As simple as that. And for that, it doesn't matter if I'm doing my MBA right now or I've just passed out, or I am in my job for 5 years or 10 years. Now, to make that decision, I'm again and again saying that is, you need to know what consulting is. Okay. See, consultant is a word, as a word only puts you in a position that you want to advise, you're going to advise someone. And that's why it sounds very cool. But that's not how it is, boss. That is not how it is. Becoming consultant is a trait which you need to acquire. Right? Advising is not very easy. Right? And even if you get with that notion, you'll not be able to survive. You need to have those skills to become a good consultant. And that you should hone yourself first. So it doesn't matter. The moment you realize, and for that you invest time. You invest your time in getting skilled and then understanding whether these skills you want to apply immediately after becoming an MBA or probably after 5 years in your job. It's open to everyone.
I think the answer was very general enough that it can be applied to many people who are asking very specific, that I'm from a data science domain or ACCA affiliate. How should I go about it? So yeah. I think this is very
actually
general.
Sorry, Yeah, just one example. I think when I joined McKinsey, I had, so we were a team of, in one of the assignments, early assignments, we were a team of 5 people. Out of those 5 people, I think 2 people just joined from college, right? I had 5 years of experience. I was in the team. Uh, there was one more team member who had 13 years of work experience, right? And there was one more team member who had 2 years of work experience. Everyone was in the same designation. There was no difference, right? Because in a consulting firm, you start with the same designation.
Got it. So I'm going to move forward, and I'm skipping a couple of questions because they seem like the answer has been given. So you can just listen to that and make up your mind. So the
Sure.
next question is Naman is asking how to get into consulting without work experience.
Yeah, I think today, consulting firm, I think majority of the workforce in consulting firms is hired when they are freshers. So, and it's just approaching them in the right way and uh, positioning your profile in the best possible way and then cracking the interview is the only way you can get through a consulting firm as a fresher, very frankly. Now, you may be fortunate enough that consulting firms may approach your colleges where you are working, or you may not be fortunate enough because they do not come to your college, but that does not mean that they will not review your application.
Got it. So the next question is by Anubhav. He's asking, I'm a first year statistics honor student in a college. Do you recommend any course or online certification learning program? For what? Is it
Yeah.
regarding consultant the program? Anubhav, can you just rephrase it once more? Because it's very vague. The question is very vague. Can be anything.
Yeah, I think maybe he's also like figuring out that what is the right path to take from here. I think the first question you should ask yourself is that what do you want to achieve at the end of the program? Do you want to have a interview or a opportunity to probably understand that how organizations work, right, and probably meet some senior leaders and explore that, or you want to just get skilled and probably just explore? So the answers will vary for both of them. Then probably you should go for any certification skilling for path number one. For path number two, there are enough and more courses AltUni has, or there are so many others as well. Okay, today prevalent. Pick up the ones which you find interesting and just start learning. Learning never has a negative carry, right? So it'll always help you.
Got it. So our next question is so ITS Naseem is asking about skills again. So skills has been discussed before. So can you just check out the webinar once more? Weber is asking, I have landed McKinsey SIP. What is your advice so that I can make most of it?
So what is SIP? Is it senior implementation something? What is it? I'm not able to gather that.
Yeah.
I know a term SIF, but I don't know what is SIP. Maybe it's a new role they have introduced. Maybe you want to just put it in the chat, or
can you just explain us?
Maybe you want to just reach out to me on LinkedIn in case you want to discuss more about McKinsey. Happy to do that as well.
That's great. So Vaibhav, you can do that as well. So I'm going to take the next question. Sanket is asking, hi, you said that everyone started off at the same position when you joined, but doesn't it set you back if you already have, say, 5 years of experience?
Yeah, good. You're listening to my conversation. So yeah, you're right in a way, but the firm itself takes care of it, by the way. So see, typically what happens is that this philosophy of everyone being at the same level in a project, okay, gives everyone the same exposure as well, right? And it's important to gain exposure of every level. Now things start changing from your next assignment, right? So if I have 5 years of experience, my first assignment may be exactly the same for all 5 of us, okay, but my next assignment will definitely be different than the one who was a fresher, right? So by designation, I mean the role you are playing in that team. And from next project onwards, my role got elevated because I already had that experience what a analyst or that team member does, right? So by designation, I do not mean compensation. Obviously, compensation is always at par with your experience, right? So obviously there is a parity in that, even though people are freshers or etc., and parity in terms of based on your experience. So obviously you're better paid, etc. It's just that it's important that you experience every role, and hence they put you in such kind of a situation. I hope that answers the question. Good you asked that, because I had that in my mind that I should clarify that, but good you asked that question.
Got it. So Vaibhav just said SIP means summer internship placement.
So is the question, should you take that up or no? Obviously you should take it up. As in, why would you not take it up?
Actually, he was asking, he landed this role, and what is your advice so that I can make most of it?
Oh, okay. As a SIP, I think you will feel that you are not adding value at any point of time for the first 1 month, right? But just stick to what you are doing and what you're asked to do. The second month will look, the delta within you and your work will be so high that you will start enjoying. The first month, remember these words, probably it will help you, because I've seen that happen. Yeah. So that's my advice. Otherwise, just be open to learning and listening people. I think there will be a lot of people who will advise you and make a memorable journey for you.
Got it. So I'm going to take up a last question, and if you have any other questions, we are going to answer that later on, or you can maybe directly approach Mihir on LinkedIn. So the last question is by Anubhav. He's asking, I want to know, why do people advise to switch from their first corporate job to another after very few years?
There can be multiple reasons, Anubhav, to this, right? And I think it's absolutely fine. So I don't take this question as, hey, what has happened and why do people really do that, right? I think there can be multiple reasons. Number one, the choice which you made a few years back about your career did not fall in place as the way you thought about it, right? Maybe the external environment changed. Maybe the company you're working in is not the right culture which fits your expectation, right? Maybe the team you're working in, maybe the kind of work which is interested is not making you excited. So there can be like thousands of reasons why you would want to shift to a different career altogether, or shift the company. I think it's about time when people start thinking this maturely, right? And by the way, again, this brings me back to McKinsey. I think this is what again culture talks about, is that in McKinsey, whenever someone wants to exit, people encourage that person to take the right choice, right? And that's how it should be looked at. Very frankly, you should not think that, okay, why people change. People change because they think the other side, they probably will add more value, right? Yeah. So always, I don't know if there are managers also on this call. This is a bit of an advice or an experience sharing, that if there is anyone in the team who wants to exit to probably explore some better opportunity in their mind, you should always encourage that. There can be so many things lying for that person ahead.
Got it. And on that note, we are going to end this session today. I hope it was very helpful for all our viewers. And please feel free to ask the questions on social media, email, or even comment on our videos. We will answer you as soon as possible. Or you can also approach me here on LinkedIn itself. And we'll take those up and we'll answer all your questions. We are sitting here for this. So thanks a lot, Mihir, for joining this and explaining everything to us. I learned a lot personally. I hope everybody did.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I hope I added some value to everyone's life. And that's the motto of AltUni. And we'll keep living up to it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye. Bye, guys.